In the year 2285, the galaxy was a vast expanse of stars and planets, filled with both wonders and dangers. Humanity had spread far beyond Earth, establishing colonies on distant worlds. Among these places was a remote outpost known as Alpha 12, located on the fringes of known space. It was here that Sergeant Elena Reyes found herself stationed. Far from the excitement of frontline battles, Elena was a dedicated soldier, known for her sharp instincts and unwavering courage. However, Alpha 12 was anything but thrilling. Outposts barely received any visitors, and the days blended into one another. Filled with routine drills and maintenance tasks, the only excitement came from the occasional passing merchant ships or research vessels, but even those were rare. Most of her fellow soldiers felt the same way, longing for action and adventure. One evening, as the sun set behind the distant mountains of the planet, Elena sat in the command center, staring at the screens filled with static. Her friend and fellow soldier, Private Samir Patel, was next to her, fiddling with a series of buttons on the control panel. Samir was a tech whiz, always eager to find something interesting in the endless streams of data. "Are you sure there's nothing more exciting happening out there?" Samir asked, glancing at Elena. "It feels like we're stuck in a ghost town." "Oh, come on," Elena replied with a smirk. "At least we're not getting shot at. It's a win in my book." Just then, a faint beep interrupted their conversation. Samir leaned closer to the screen, his eyes widening. "Wait a minute, I'm picking up a signal. It's weak, but it's definitely coming from somewhere nearby." Elena's interest piqued. "Can you trace it?" "I'm trying." Samir's fingers danced over the controls. After a few tense moments, the signal grew clearer. "It's a distress signal. It's coming from an uncharted planet just a few light years away." "Distress signal? That's unusual," Elena said, her heart racing. "We should check it out. It might be a stranded ship or something serious." "Are you sure we should?" "It could be a trap," Samir warned. But there was a spark of excitement in his eyes. Elena thought for a moment. The idea of a potential mission stirred something within her. "We can't ignore it. We have a duty to investigate. Let's gather a team." With that, Elena and Samir began to prepare for their unexpected mission. They quickly assembled a small group of trusted soldiers, including Lieutenant Ava Chen, known for her tactical skills and calm demeanor. The trio met in the briefing room, where Elena laid out the plan. "Listen up, everyone," she began, looking at her team. "We've picked up a distress signal from a nearby planet. We don't know what we'll find, but we need to be ready for anything. Our primary goal is to assess the situation and provide assistance if needed." Ava nodded, her expression serious. "We should also be on high alert. If it's a trap, we need to be prepared to defend ourselves," Samir chimed in. "I can monitor communications and keep an eye on any unusual activity while we're on the planet." With their plans set, the team gathered their gear and made their way to the small shuttle that would take them to the mysterious planet. As they boarded, Elena felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. This mission could be the adventure she had longed for, but it also held the potential for danger. The shuttle lifted off, leaving behind the familiarity of Alpha 12 as they traveled through the vastness of space. Elena gazed out the window, watching the stars twinkle like distant diamonds. She felt a sense of purpose, knowing they were on their way to uncover something important. After a short journey, they arrived at the uncharted planet. The surface was covered in dense forests and towering mountains, with shadows dancing under the light of two moons. Elena's heart raced as they prepared to land. Whatever awaited them on this unknown world could change everything. As the shuttle touched down, the team exchanged determined looks. They were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Little did they know the mission would lead them to uncover secrets that would test their courage and reshape their understanding of the galaxy. The shuttle doors slid open with a hiss, revealing the lush landscape of the uncharted planet. A thick canopy of trees stretched above, their leaves shimmering in the light of the two moons. Elena stepped out first, taking a deep breath of the fresh, earthy air. It felt different from the recycled atmosphere of Alpha 12, invigorating and alive. "Stay alert." "Everyone," Elena instructed, scanning their surroundings. "We don't know what we're dealing with here," as the rest of the team disembarked. Samir activated his handheld scanner, trying to pinpoint the source of the distress signal. "The signal is coming from deeper within the forest," he announced, pointing toward a narrow path that wound its way through the trees. "Let's move," Ava said, leading the way with a determined stride. The team followed closely, stepping carefully over roots and rocks. The sounds of the forest surrounded them, birds chirping, leaves rustling, and the distant call of unknown creatures. It felt like they had entered another world. After walking for a while, they came across an old stone structure partially hidden by vines and moss. It resembled a temple, its walls engraved with strange symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. Elena's curiosity piqued. This must be what's left of the civilization that once thrived here. Samir examined the symbols closely. These markings might tell us something about the distress signal. Let me see if I can decipher them. He pulled out his tablet and began to take pictures of the engravings. While Samir worked, Elena and Ava explored the area. The temple was vast, with large pillars holding up a crumbling roof. In the center, they discovered a circular platform surrounded by intricate carvings. It felt ancient, as if it had been waiting for someone to return. Suddenly, Samir's voice broke the silence. "I think I've found something." He beckoned them over, excitement evident in his tone. "Look at this." The symbols talk about a weapon called the Wail of the Ancients. It was created to protect against a great threat. Lena's heart raced. "A weapon? What kind of threat?" "I'm not sure," Samir replied, frowning at the tablet. "But it mentions a cataclysm that destroyed this civilization. It must have activated the weapon too late." "What if the distress signal is coming from that weapon?" Ava suggested, glancing around nervously. "We need to find it," Lena nodded. "Let's keep searching. If this weapon exists, we need to secure it before it falls into the wrong hands." As they moved deeper into the temple, the air grew cooler and more still. They descended a narrow staircase, leading them underground. The walls here were even more decorated with glowing symbols, casting an eerie light. Samir continued to scan. For the signal, his device beeping softly. After what felt like an eternity of walking, they reached a large chamber. In the center stood a massive stone pedestal, and on it rested a sleek, metallic object, humming softly. It was the wail of the ancients. Elena approached cautiously. "This must be it," she whispered, awe in her voice. The weapon looked both beautiful and terrifying, its surface shimmering with energy. "Can you power it up?" Ava asked, looking at Samir. "We need to know if it still works." "I'll try," Samir replied, moving closer to the pedestal. He connected his tablet to the device and began typing rapidly, his face a mix of concentration and excitement. The hum grew louder, filling the chamber with a vibrating energy. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from above. Dust and debris rained down as the sound of heavy footsteps approached. Elena's instincts kicked in. "We need to get out of here now." They rushed back toward the staircase, but as they climbed, a group of armored figures burst into the chamber. The Voraks had found them, their eyes gleaming with malice. Elena's heart sank. They had to defend the whale and themselves. "Get ready," Elena shouted, drawing her weapon. The team quickly formed a defensive line, ready to protect each other and the weapon. The fight for survival had begun, and they knew they had to hold their ground against this new threat. As the Vorak soldiers stormed into the chamber, their armor glinted in the dim light, and their fierce expressions sent a chill down Elena's spine. She quickly assessed the situation, her heart racing. There were at least 5 of them, heavily armed and clearly ready for a fight. "Stay together," Lena shouted, positioning herself in front of Samir and Ava. "We need to protect the whale at all costs." The Vorak's leader, a tall figure with sharp features and cold eyes, raised a weapon that pulsed with energy. "Surrender, humans. The weapon belongs to us now," he demanded, his voice echoing through the chamber. Elena shook her head defiantly. "We're not giving it up without a fight." With a battle cry, the Voraks charged forward. Elena fired. First, her shot striking one of the soldiers in the shoulder, causing him to stagger back. Ava followed suit, aiming carefully and taking down another Vorax with precision. Samir, still connected to the pedestal, shouted, "I'm almost done. Just hold them off a little longer." The atmosphere was charged with tension as the two sides exchanged fire. Lena ducked behind a stone pillar, dodging return fire from the Vorax. She could feel the heat of the energy blasts as they whizzed by her. "We need to create a distraction," Lena yelled to Ava. "On it," Ava replied, sprinting to the side of the chamber. She spotted a loose rock and grabbed it, throwing it toward the far wall. The rock hit with a loud crash, drawing the attention of two Vorax soldiers who turned to investigate. "Now, Samir," Lena called out. "Activate the whale." Just as Samir completed his calculations, the pedestal began to glow brighter, and a low hum filled the room. The energy from the whale started to pulse, sending vibrations through the floor. "It's working," Samir shouted, excitement and fear in his voice. Alina took a deep breath, knowing they had to hold their ground just a little longer. She fired. Again, hitting another Vorax. The remaining soldiers were becoming more desperate, their attacks more aggressive. Suddenly, the chamber shook as the whale activated fully. A wave of energy erupted from the pedestal, engulfing the room in brilliant light. The Vorax staggered back, momentarily blinded. "What is happening?" Vorax leader yelled, panic creeping into his voice. Alina seized the moment. "Now." "Move!" she shouted, rushing toward the pedestal. The whale's energy surged, creating a protective barrier around the humans. As they reached the pedestal, Samir began to adjust settings on the device. It can redirect its energy into a pulse that will incapacitate them, he explained, his fingers flying over the controls. "Do it," Alina urged, glancing back at the Vorax, who were regaining their composure and preparing to charge again. With a final press of a button, the whale unleashed a powerful wave of energy. The blast rippled through the chamber, striking the Vorax soldiers and knocking them off their feet. They fell to the ground, disoriented and incapacitated, their weapons clattering beside them. Breathing heavily, Alina turned to Samir and Ava. "We did it, but we can't stay here," right? Samir replied, still monitoring the whale. "We need to move before more of them arrive." Alina nodded, her mind racing. "We have to find a way to secure the whale and get back to the shuttle. If the Vorax regroup, they'll come for us again." Together, they quickly gathered their supplies and secured the whale. Using ropes and equipment from their packs to ensure it wouldn't be easily taken. As they worked, the sound of distant footsteps echoed through the temple, growing louder. As more Vorax reinforcements approached, "Let's go," Ava urged, her eyes wide with urgency. They hurried toward the exit, retracing their steps through the temple. The tension in the air was palpable, each sound sending a jolt of adrenaline through their bodies. Alina led the way, her heart pounding as they reached the staircase. "Almost there," she encouraged, pushing herself and her team to move faster. They burst into the open air, the cool breeze hitting their faces. The sight of their shuttle in the distance filled them with hope, but as they raced toward it, they heard the roar of engines overhead. A Vorax ship descended from the sky, landing between them and the shuttle. Lena's heart sank as soldiers poured out, weapons raised and ready. "Get to cover," she shouted, pulling Ava and Samir behind a nearby boulder. The fight was far from over, and they had to think quickly if they were going to escape this planet alive. As the Vorax soldiers poured out of their ship, Elena's mind raced. They had to find a way to escape, but the odds were stacked against them. The Vorax were relentless, and their numbers seemed to grow by the minute. She crouched behind the boulder, her heart pounding as she watched the enemy spread out, searching for them. "Do you think we can make a run for it?" Ava whispered, glancing at the shuttle, which felt painfully far away. Elena shook her head. "Not yet. We need to create a diversion. If we can distract them, we might have a chance to get to the shuttle." Samir, still clutching his tablet, looked thoughtful. "I can create a temporary signal that might confuse their systems. If I can make it look like we're still in the temple, it could buy us some time." "Good idea," Elena said, her determination rising. "But you'll need to do it from a safe spot. We'll cover you while you set it up." Ava nodded, her eyes focused. "Let's do this. We can't let them take the whale." Alina took a deep breath and formulated a plan. "Samir, You move to that rock outcrop over there. She pointed to a small ridge about 20 meters away. Ava and I will draw their attention. As soon as you're in position, activate the diversion. Samir nodded, understanding the urgency. Got it. Just be careful. With a determined look, Alina and Ava stood up from behind the boulder and sprinted toward the edge of the clearing, drawing the Vorax's attention. Hey, over here, Alina shouted, waving her arms to make herself visible. The Vorax soldiers turned, their eyes narrowing with focus. There they are, one of them yelled, raising his weapon. Go! No, Alina urged Ava, and they both dashed toward the rock outcrop, keeping low to avoid incoming fire. Blasts of energy whizzed past them, the heat of near misses sending. Adrenaline coursing through their veins, Samir quickly moved to the outcrop, crouching low behind it as he began to work on his tablet. I'm setting up the signal now, he called out, his fingers flying over the screen. Alina and Ava reached the cover of the rocks, panting heavily. From their vantage point, they could see the Vorax regrouping, their attention still focused. On the two fleeing soldiers, this is working, Ava said, a hint of excitement in her voice. Just a little longer, Alina urged, watching Samir intently as he concentrated on his task. She could see the Vorax soldiers starting to spread, out again trying to anticipate their next move. Suddenly, Samir shouted, It's ready, activating the signal. As he pressed the button, a bright flash erupted from his tablet, followed by a series of holographic images that flickered to life around the temple. The images made it seem like multiple versions of Alina and Ava were still inside, confusing the Vorax soldiers. Now's our chance, Alina yelled. Let's move! They sprinted toward the shuttle, the distraction working perfectly. The Vorax soldiers hesitated, looking back and forth between the holograms and their actual targets. Alina could see doubt creeping into their ranks. Keep going, Ava urged as they neared the shuttle. Just a few more steps and they would be safe. But just as they reached the shuttle door, a loud roar echoed through the clearing. A Vorax commander had spotted them and was charging forward, weapon raised. Stop them, shouted, rallying the troops. Alina and Ava scrambled into the shuttle, adrenaline pushing them forward. Samir, hurry, Alina shouted, glancing back to see the Vorax closing in. I'm coming, Samir yelled, diving into the shuttle just as the first Vorax soldier reached the ramp. Alina quickly slammed the hatch shut, locking it just in time. Start the engines, Ava shouted, her voice tense as they all secured themselves in their seats. Samir was already at the control panel, fingers flying over the buttons. The engines roared to life, a powerful hum filling the cabin. We're ready to go, he announced, glancing at the viewport as Vorax soldiers began to pound on the shuttle, trying to force their way in. Alina felt a surge of urgency. Get us out of here, Samir. With a final press of a button, the shuttle lifted off the ground and the Vorax soldiers were thrown backward by the sudden thrust. The shuttle shot into the sky, breaking free from the planet's atmosphere. As they soared into space, Alina let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. They had escaped, but the danger was far from over. The Vorax would not give up easily, and they now possessed the wail of the ancients. We need to find a safe place to regroup, Alina said, looking at her team, determination in her eyes. This isn't over yet. The shuttle soared through the vastness of space, the stars twinkling like distant diamonds. Inside, the atmosphere was tense as Alina, Ava, and Samir caught their breath. They had escaped the planet, but the reality of their situation weighed heavily on them. The Vorax were still out there. They now had the wail of the ancients in their possession. Alina sat in the pilot's seat, her hands gripping the controls. She felt a deep sense of responsibility. We need to figure out our next move, she said, glancing back at her team. The Vorax will come after us. We can't let them use the whale for their own purposes. Ava nodded, her expression serious. We need to find a safe location to analyze the whale and plan our defense. If the Vorax discover its true power, they could wipe out entire colonies. Samir, still catching his breath, looked up from the control panel. I can scan for nearby systems. We need a place that's off the beaten path, somewhere they wouldn't think to look for us. Good idea. Alina replied, her mind racing. Let's find somewhere we can hide and regroup. As Samir began scanning the star charts, Ava took a seat beside Alina. "Do you think we can trust the whale?" she asked quietly. "What if it turns out to be too powerful to control?" Alina sighed, contemplating the weapon's potential. "We have to believe we can find a way to use it for good. It was created to protect, after all. We just need to be careful." "Here's something," Samir interrupted, his voice breaking through their thoughts. "There's a small moon in the Epsilon system. It's mostly uninhabited and has a few caves we could use for cover." "Set a course," Alina ordered, her relief palpable. "Let's get there fast." As the shuttle changed course, Alina felt a flicker of hope. They had managed to escape, but they knew the fight was far from over. The Vorax would not let them go easily, especially with such a powerful weapon in play. After a short journey, the shuttle approached the moon. It was rocky and barren, with jagged cliffs and deep craters. As they landed, Alina felt a sense of urgency. "We need to secure the shuttle and set up a perimeter. Samir, can you start working on analyzing the whale?" "Absolutely," Samir replied, eager to dive into his work. He grabbed his tools and carefully approached the weapon, which lay dormant on the shuttle floor. Ava and Alina stepped outside, scanning the landscape for any signs of danger. The air was crisp and cool, and the silence was almost eerie. "I'll take the east side," Ava said, moving toward the rocky outcrop. "You take the west and keep an eye out." Alina nodded, grateful for Ava's sharp instincts. As she patrolled the western area, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The moon was desolate, but the tension in the air suggested they were not alone. After some time, Alina returned to the shuttle, where Samir was deep in concentration, surrounded by screens and data. "How's it going?" she asked, peering over his shoulder. "It's fascinating," Samir replied, excitement in his voice. "The whale contains advanced technology that amplifies energy. If we can find a way to harness it properly, we could use it to defend ourselves against the Vorax." "What about the risks?" Alina asked, concerned. "What if it backfires?" Samir paused, considering her words. "That's a possibility, but we need to take that risk. If the Vorax get their hands on it, the consequences would be much worse." Just then, Ava rushed back into the shuttle, her face pale. "We have a problem. I spotted a Vorax ship approaching from the north." Elena's heart sank. "How far away are they?" "Maybe 15 minutes. We need to act fast." "Samir, can you activate the whale in a defensive mode?" Lena asked, urgency in her voice. "I can try, but I need a few more minutes," Samir replied, his fingers flying over the controls. "Let's prepare for a fight," Lena said, adrenaline surging through her. She quickly gathered weapons and shared them with Ava. "We need to make sure we're ready to defend ourselves. Can't let them take the whale." As they prepared for the incoming threat, Alina felt a mix of fear and determination. They had come too far to give up now. The whale was their only hope, and they had to protect it at all costs, with their hearts racing. Alina and Ava took their positions outside the shuttle, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The Vorax were coming, and they would have to fight not just for their lives, but for the future of humanity. As the shadows lengthened on the barren moon, the distant rumble of the Vorax ship grew louder. Alina stood with Ava, both of them gripping their weapons tightly. The air was thick with tension, and every second felt like an eternity as they awaited the enemy's arrival. "Samir, how much longer?" Alina called over her shoulder, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the Vorax. "I'm almost finished," Samir replied, focused on the screens in front of him. "I just need to calibrate the energy output of the whale to create a defensive barrier. If I can do this right, we'll have an advantage." Ava glanced at Alina, her expression serious. "What's the plan if they breach our defenses?" "We hold our ground," Alina replied firmly. "We have to protect the whale at all costs. If we can keep them at bay, we might find a way to use its power to turn the tide." Just then, the Vorax ship came into view, dark and menacing against the pale sky. It landed with a heavy thud, and the ramp lowered, revealing a squad of Vorax. Soldiers, their armor glinting ominously in the fading light. "Here they come," Alina shouted, taking a step forward as the Vorax soldiers emerged. They quickly formed a line, weapons raised and eyes fixed on the shuttle. You cannot escape humans, the Vorax leader shouted, his voice booming across the open space. Surrender now, and we may spare your lives. Not a chance, Lena shouted back, her heart racing. We will fight to protect what is ours. The Vorax soldiers responded with a barrage of energy blasts, lighting up the darkening sky. Alina and Ava ducked behind the shuttle, returning fire with their own weapons. The air filled with the sounds of energy pulses and the crackle of energy. Beams colliding. Samir, hurry, Alina urged, glancing back at him. We need that barrier now. I'm trying, Samir called out, sweat beading on his forehead as he worked furiously. Just a few more seconds. Lena peeked around. The shuttle, firing at the approaching Vorax. Keep them off me. She shouted to Ava, who nodded and fired at the nearest enemy. The Vorax soldiers advanced, their numbers overwhelming. Lena could see the determination in their eyes as they pressed forward. Just then, one of the Vorax soldiers flanked them, charging toward Samir's position. Watch out, Lena yelled. But it was too late. The Vorax soldier lunged at Samir, who was absorbed in his task with quick reflexes. Ava leaped forward, tackling the Vorax soldier before he could reach Samir. They rolled on the ground, grappling for control. Alina turned to help, but Samir shouted, I've got it. In that moment, a brilliant wave of light erupted from the whale, surrounding the shuttle and creating a shimmering barrier. The energy pulse pushed back the Vorax, causing them to stumble and fall. Alina felt a surge of hope. It worked, she exclaimed, her voice filled with excitement. We have a chance. Ava managed to subdue the Vorax soldier, delivering a swift blow that knocked him unconscious. She quickly got back to her feet, ready to fight again. Keep them at bay while we figure out how to use the whale's power against them. As the Vorax regrouped, Alina and Ava used the cover of the barrier to move strategically. They fired at the Vorax, who now hesitated, unsure how to breach the energy shield. Samir, can you amplify the whale's power? Lena asked, her mind racing with possibilities. I think so, Samir replied, still monitoring the readings. If I can channel the energy into a concentrated blast, we could take out their front line. Do it, Alina shouted, feeling the adrenaline coursing through her veins. We'll cover you. Samir began adjusting the settings on the whale, and Alina and Ava took their positions, ready to defend him. The Vorax soldiers were starting to regain their confidence, realizing the barrier could only hold for so long. Alina peered over the edge of the shuttle, firing at a group of Vorax that were moving to flank them. They're regrouping. We need to hurry. Almost there, Samir called out, his focus unwavering. Just a few more adjustments. The Vorax leader shouted orders, and the soldiers began to charge toward the barrier, determined to break through. Elena's heart raced as she fired again, trying to hold them back. Now, Samir yelled, his voice filled with urgency. I'm ready. With a deep breath, Alina shouted, Let it loose. The whale emitted a blinding beam of energy, shooting toward the Vorax soldiers. It struck the ground with immense power, creating a shockwave that knocked the closest soldiers off their feet. The ground trembled, and a bright light filled the air. Alina felt a rush of triumph as she saw the Vorax leader stumble, his face contorted in disbelief. The whale was more powerful than they had imagined, and they had finally gained the upper hand. But the fight was far from over. They had to finish this battle and secure their future. With renewed determination, Alina and her team prepared to face whatever came next. The blinding light from the whale pulsed through the air, illuminating the battlefield as the shockwave spread outward. The Vorax soldiers were thrown backward, their ranks breaking apart in chaos. Alina felt a surge of hope as she saw the Vorax leader struggled to regain his footing, his confidence shaken. Now's our chance, Alina shouted, rallying her team. Let's press the attack. Ava nodded, her eyes filled with determination. We can't let them recover. Push forward. With renewed energy, Alina, Ava, and Samir moved out from behind the shuttle, firing at the disoriented Vorax soldiers. The barrier created by the whale still shimmered around them, providing a protective shield as they advanced. Samir continued to monitor the whale's energy levels, adjusting settings as they moved. If we can keep the pressure on them, we might be able to use the whale again, he called out, his voice steady. Alina glanced back at him. Keep it charged. We'll need it for the final push. As they moved closer to the Vorax, Alina could see the fear in their eyes. The initial shock of the whale's power had unsettled them, and they hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Taking advantage of their confusion, Alina led her team forward. Firing with precision, "Don't let up," she shouted, her heart racing. "We have to show them they picked the wrong fight." The Vorax regrouped, attempting to form a defensive line, but their confidence was faltering. Alina could see the leader barking orders, trying to restore order among his troops. "They're trying to organize," Ava warned, taking aim at the nearest Vorax soldier. "Let's take out their commander," Lena replied, pointing to the leader who was still trying to rally his remaining soldiers. "If we can take him down, we might break their morale entirely." With a plan in place, they focused their fire on the Vorax leader. The energy blasts whizzed through the air, striking the ground around him and sending up sprays of dust and debris. The Vorax leader ducked and dodged, but Alina could see him starting to panic. "Now, Samir," Alina called. "Channel more energy into the whale. We need a concentrated blast." "On it," Samir replied, fingers flying over the controls. The whale glowed brighter, and Alina could feel the energy building within it. "Cover me," Lena shouted as she moved to a position where she had a clear line of sight to the Vorax leader. Ava and Samir took up defensive positions, firing at the Vorax soldiers who were trying to return fire. With a final adjustment, Samir announced, "Ready." Lena took a deep breath, focusing on the target. Fire. The whale unleashed a massive beam of energy, striking the Vorax leader directly. The impact was immense, sending him crashing to the ground. The blast created a shockwave that knocked back several soldiers, scattering them like leaves in a storm. As the dust settled, a heavy silence fell over the battlefield. The remaining Vorax soldiers looked at their fallen leader, uncertainty flooding their faces. It was a moment of hesitation, and Alina knew they had to capitalize on it. "Now, let's finish this," she yelled, charging forward with Ava at her side. Samir followed closely, ready to support them. The Vorax soldiers, realizing their leader was down and their morale shattered, began to retreat. The remaining fighters turned and ran, abandoning their posts in a desperate attempt to escape the humans who had outsmarted them. Alina and her team pressed forward, determined not to let them get away. "Don't let them regroup," Ava shouted as she fired at a retreating soldier, forcing him to the ground. As the last of the Vorax soldiers fled, Alina felt a wave of relief wash over her. They had done it. They had fought back against the Vorax, protected the whale, and secured their survival. Panting and exhausted, the three of them stood together on the battlefield, taking in the scene. The air was still charged with energy, but the immediate threat had passed. "We did it," Samir said, a smile breaking across his face. "We actually did it." Alina looked at her friends, pride swelling in her chest. "This is just the beginning. We need to make sure the whale is safe and figure out how to use its power for good." Ava nodded, her expression serious. "Can't let this weapon fall into the wrong hands again. We need to take it back to Earth and ensure it's protected." "Agreed," Alina said, looking back at the whale, which still pulsed softly with energy. "Let's head back to the shuttle and make our way home. The galaxy is counting on us." As they walked back to the shuttle, Alina felt a sense of hope. They had faced overwhelming odds and come out victorious. Together, they would continue to fight for humanity and ensure that the whale of the ancients would be used to protect, not destroy. The future was uncertain, but they were ready to face it together.